All right. Now let's talk about growth. Okay. I'll take you through management's commentary on growth. All right. Okay. Let's do that. Well, hope you're finding my content helpful. Please write to me if you have any questions. Also, write to me if you want to join my equity research and valuation cohort program. Because in this program, I have analyzed in detail, I've analyzed and valued three companies from different industries. Okay. So this is a practical and hands-on program. I've strived to keep theory to a bare minimum and covered concepts through live exercises. So if you're serious about learning equity research and valuation, then you would certainly find this program very helpful. All right. So please write to me. Thank you. In growth, let me go to FY24 Q4. Okay, and again, I'm following a script. Yeah. All right. See, they talk about something called debottlenecking. Let's understand. Let me take a let me go to a whiteboard. This is very important because it's not something which is relevant to just these guys. It's relevant to any player, any manufacturing, any consumer goods and services, retail firm, relevant to everyone. So I think this is important, like worth spending some time on. What happened? Okay. Right. See, pen is not working for some reason. All right. See, there are three ways. There are three ways you can grow, right? One is something which is called debottlenecking, and I'll discuss what is debottlenecking in a bit. Okay. So once again, I want to see why my pen is not working. Okay, it's working. Second is something which is called, sorry, brownfield, brownfield expansion. Yeah. Third thing that you can use to grow is something called which is called greenfield expansion. And as I was saying, regardless of whether you are a manufacturing firm, a consumer good and services, a retail firm, or a healthcare provider, or hospital, okay, these are the three ways that you can grow. So let's discuss all of these. Okay. What is debottlenecking? So debottlenecking essentially means, okay, you increase your production capacity by identifying what are the bottlenecks in your existing capacity. Okay. Let me give a very lame example. Okay. All right. For the benefit of everyone else, let's say if in your house you have guests, you have guests or you have cousins who come over. Okay. But you just, let's say, have two bedrooms in your house. Okay. Then of course you'll have to make space for them to sleep over. Okay. So you will probably change the internal layout. You'll put the sofa in some place. You will probably get a new mattress, an extra mattress. You'll do something. You'll change the internal configuration of your house to accommodate that the guest who has come, for sleeping over, right? So what it means is, okay, this is debottlenecking. You're identifying what are some of the gaps in your internal, in your layout, in your house, and then identifying how you can make ways to accommodate that additional person who has come over. Similarly, in a business, okay, when you are, let's say, operating at close to 100% capacity, let me say, okay, and you want to then, let's say, get in more revenue, okay, then what you'll do is, you cannot, of course, get more revenue, okay, because you are constrained, your capacity constrained. So what you have to increase capacity. So what you'll do is, you'll change the internal layout of your, let's say, your plants, your machinery. Let's say if you're there occupying a lot of space, okay, you would come up with ways to make sure there is more optimal utilization of space within your plants or factories or within your hospitals for that matter. Okay, so you'll do some kind of internal reconfiguration. This is nothing but debottlenecking. Okay, and then there is something called, and of course we'll talk about debottlenecking in the way these guys explain. When we go back to the con call in a bit. Second thing is brownfield expansion. This is another way in which companies can grow. Companies can increase capacity for growth rather. Brownfield expansion means is the process of expanding or upgrading your existing facilities or infrastructure. Okay, so let's say what it means is you don't have to build, let's say, a new building or a new plant from scratch. You already have the space for it. You already have the space for it, but you, let's say, get new machinery in and get it installed in that space. And again, let me take a lame example. Let's say if you have a two-storied house. Okay, two-storied house. Now you're expanding your family, you're increasing your family. What you'll do is you'll construct a new floor, the third floor as well. Okay, you didn't have to buy an additional parcel of land. You utilize your existing infrastructure. You just constructed a new floor and constructed more rooms in that third floor, which was earlier a terrace. Okay, so that is called brownfield expansion. Okay, so in the context of hospitals or in the context of a manufacturing plant, in the concept of a hospital, what you will do is you already have the space for it. You will just install additional beds in that existing space. Okay, all right. So that is brownfield expansion. So you're not building a new building from scratch, essentially. Okay, and then what is a greenfield expansion? What it means is that you buy, let's say, a new parcel of land. Okay, and then you erect, let's say, new machinery, new plants, or new hospitals in that new piece of land. Okay, so that is called greenfield expansion. So these are the three ways in which companies they expand capacity to grow in the future if they are capacity constrained right now. And Narayana is doing all of these three things right now. Okay. So let me go back. Let me go to the screen. Yeah, return to the meeting, right? Why is it? Okay. So what they're talking about is very interesting. What the MD says is a lot of infrastructure is built for a time when most work was long stay inpatient work. Okay, so we probably have too much space dedicated for that, and we're trying to change the layout so that we can cater to more volume. Okay, all right. So what he's saying is, see, right now, Ravi, what they're trying to do is they're trying to foray into, they're trying to get more daycare or outpatients. Okay, patients who don't have to be admitted in the hospitals overnight. Okay, but they're saying their existing infrastructure is built for inpatients. So they're trying to do some internal configuration changes to accommodate outpatients, okay, which of course is a good stream of revenue for these guys. So that's what they are saying. They are debottlenecking. All right. Okay. And if I go to a different con call, page 11, where is yes. So if you look, read just the first two lines, This is a con call from FY23 Q4. What they say is, if you ask me exactly how much we can do, it depends on how much more of an internal reconfiguration we are able to do to our hospitals. So again, they are talking about the same thing, internal reconfiguration to debottleneck, to get more daycare volume, outpatients. And then they also go on to talk about the second aspect that we just discussed, which is brownfield expansion. What they're saying is, we may not be able to double in the existing network that we have because we require significant investment, a little bit of brownfield expansion, as in trying to think of ways to add more beds in the existing capacity that they have. All right. Yeah. Now I wanted to talk about something very interesting. Of course, everything is related to growth right now. That's what we're discussing right now. F24 Q3. My notes say that I need to go to F24 Q3 con call. In this con call, I want to, let's say, go to page 17. Okay. Now, this is important, very pertinent to growth. Okay. They're talking about the long-term focus, saying our key priorities are winning greater market share in Bangalore and Kolkata. Okay. So the next decade, the bulk of our investment will focus on these two geographies. The remaining will just be strengthening the existing hospital set that we currently have. See, these guys also have presence in Delhi, Gurgaon, in Ahmedabad, in Bombay. They have presence in other places as well. Okay. But that presence is more recent. And let me tell you, they're not doing very well in those geographies, but they're doing very well in Bangalore and in Kolkata, which continues to be their focus. So they're saying, so most of the expansion will be some combination of brownfield and greenfield investment in these hospitals. Okay? And not only hospitals, clinics, pharmacies in these network of cities that we're currently operating on, and this will be the case for the next 10 years. That's what they go on to say. So you kind of get a sense as to how they're thinking about growth for the future. Internal reconfiguration, which is debottlenecking, okay? Brownfield and greenfield, all the three. Okay. Now let me, and you may wonder, The analyst asked them, why you are only focusing on Bangalore and Kolkata? Okay? Why not Bombay? Why not Delhi, Gurgaon? Because you have, of course, you have good paying patients. You may have good paying customers in those geographies as well, right? So this is what they go on to say. There are two reasons for them to focus on Bangalore and Kolkata. Okay? So what there's one is that Bangalore and Kolkata that we run are at full capacity, all right, and you naturally build capacity where you're sure you're going to get more patients to fill it up. Okay, so what they go on to say, these hospitals are operating at full capacity. That's what they go on to say. Okay, and then the reason why they're not focusing as much on other geographies is it will take us longer to fill up those beds, while the investment required in all the geographies is essentially the same. The construction cost in any part of India is roughly the same. Okay? So the confidence that we have in filling our beds and generating quicker returns is much higher in Bangalore and Kolkata. Okay? Which kind of makes sense, right? The other reason is that these places are the places, Bangalore and Kolkata, are the places where they have the highest brand recognition. We just spoke about branding, brand power. These guys are very well recognized in Bangalore and Kolkata. They have the highest market share in these geographies, but they are constrained in being in very few locations around the city. So they believe they can get more patients in these two cities. Okay, all right. So again, they try to like articulate the reason as to why they are focusing on these two cities alone. Not that they're not focusing anywhere else, but the major focus is Bangalore and Kolkata for these two reasons. All right. So this is something very interesting that they talk about. Okay. All right. So anyway, moving forward, now I want to go to FY24 Q4, and again I'm kind of toggling across different con calls as per my notes, because everything that I've labeled growth, I'm covering right now. Okay. And now I'm going to give you some kind of framework as well. Okay. So now they actually try to give more sense in terms of what kind of expansion that they plan to do in the next few years. So what they say is, when it comes to a Bangalore plan, it includes the expansion of their Health City campus on the land which is owned by them, where we'll start construction of more than 3 lakh square feet. Okay, all right. So that's what they say. So they'll start construction of more than 3 lakh square feet. Okay. We've also acquired land in Rajarhat. Rajarhat is a place near Kolkata, in Kolkata, I'm not sure, but it's in that area. Okay. So what they're saying is, we have taken the position, we expect a 3 lakh square feet construction in that area as well. So totally 6 lakh square feet of construction they plan to do just out of Bangalore and Kolkata. Of course, you have to put 6 lakh square feet in context. In isolation, doesn't mean anything. What does this 6 lakh square feet mean? Okay, I'll get to it in a bit. Okay. One thing very important, they also say that we have also recently acquired one parcel of land in the upmarket Bangalore. So not only they are doing a brownfield expansion in Bangalore, where they're constructing this 3 lakh square feet of land, which was already owned by them, but they also acquired a land parcel in upmarket Bangalore location, for which the construction should start soon. Okay, right. So all in all, we have more than 8 to 10 lakh square feet of construction coming in the end of third quarter. All right. So again, what does this 8 to 10 lakh square feet of construction mean? We have to understand. Okay. And how do we understand? The analyst straight away asks the question, so when do you say 8 to 10 lakh square feet of land, do you mind giving us the number of beds you plan to construct on that area? Because that's how an analyst thinks, right? What does that 8 to 10 lakh square feet of area mean? What are you going to do with it? How many beds you're going to construct on that area? So what they say is, we cannot give you that equation yet. So these guys are very, they don't give you like hard numbers. You have to make estimates of your own. Okay. So let me cover that point. Yeah. Let me go to page 26. So see, this is very interesting, this para. Yeah. So of course, as analysts, you need to understand how many beds you need to construct, right? So you need to understand what's the typical area occupied by one bed. Only when you know what is the typical area occupied by one bed on an average, only then in your mind you can compute how many beds they can potentially construct in that 8 to 10 square feet of area over time, right? So the question that they are asked is, can you give us the total area of your current hospitals? Because see, we already know how many beds they have. All we need is the current area occupied by their existing hospitals. And then you can do the math and estimate the average area occupied by one bed on an average, right? All right. So what this MD is giving us the numbers, right? The health city in Bangalore is around 9 square feet area. Kolkata is around 6 feet in area. So essentially, I translate that into a table. Let me just show the table. All right. So I've translated the information available in that para in the con call in this table. Okay? So they spoke about in Bangalore, they have this much square feet of space. In Kolkata, they have this much square feet of space. In Bangalore, in this square feet of space, they have these many beds. In Kolkata, in this square feet of space, they have these many beds. Okay? Overall, their total square feet area across all their hospitals is 27 lakh square feet, which is occupied by around less than 6,000 beds. Okay, this is the information that's been provided to us. Okay, now we can estimate what's the area occupied by one bed on an average. We need this information to estimate the total number of beds that they can potentially construct in the future. Okay, because they have not explicitly provided us key how many beds they'll construct. What they've provided us, the total area they plan to construct in the future, but they've not provided us the number of beds. So any which ways, यहाँ पे square feet area occupied by one bed would be this square feet divided by 1400. Sorry. Okay. So it's around 643. Okay. Kolkata is it's less than 500. Okay. And overall, it would be less than 500. Okay. All right. See, so we get कि हमें समझ में आ गया कि the area occupied by one bed is around 500 to 600 square feet on an average. Now just let's look at a couple of more things and then we'll done with growth. We'll be done with growth. All right. See, we also need to understand when will the construction start and when the construction will be completed and when it will start giving you when the beds will become operational. Okay? So यहाँ पे I'm in F525 Q1 the con call. Okay? And again, my notes tell me that I need to go to page 7. Okay? So here there's something called ramp up time. Okay? So what they're saying is that they are right now we are in an expansion phase and these capacity expansions will kick in the next 3 years time. Okay, and they also state in this somewhere in this report that the construction will start in FY25 Q3. So 3 years from FY 3 years from FY25 Q3, the construction should start giving them results in terms of revenue and revenue numbers. Okay, of course, because it takes time for something to be constructed. Okay, so in hospitals usually the gestation period is around minimum 3 years. That's what they tell us. Okay, this is important. Okay, and this is what you need to capture for any company, not just the hospitals, any manufacturing company. Now let's move forward. A question which should come to our mind is how they're going to fund all this growth, right? How they're going to fund this growth. So here they talk about that 80% of their expansion would be funded by debt. So in our model, we need to factor that they would be raising debt to get this capital expansion going, right? So that is something again which would go as an input in our model. All right. See, now after having looked through the management commentary on growth, okay, we of course have to distill all that information in, let's say, a framework or in a table, because only then we'll be able to consume it in a way that we need. Otherwise, we'll struggle with so much of information being thrown at us. We'll struggle to make sense of it. Okay? So here is what I'll recommend. Okay? So you construct a table, okay, which to capture the current capacity. Right now we're talking about hospital, but let's say you're talking about a manufacturing company, or you're talking about, let's say, a consumer goods and services company, you're talking about a retail company. Okay, the first thing is you need to capture the current providing capacity. All right. So in the case of hospitals, okay, you need to capture the number of beds that they have right now across different geographies. So you've got to capture that information. Okay, and of course the total land area occupied by those hospitals. In the case of manufacturing firm, you got to document let's say how many plants they have and what is the capacity for each of those plants. So you got to document that information. So that is something that you need to capture. And then the planned future capacity. Planned capacity in the future. That is something you need to document, because the management talks about that. So वो आप document करो. तीसरा, what is the amount of paisa, the money that will be required to fund that future capacity? Okay, money required to build this capacity. Okay. If they're talking about let's say they have to buy land. If it's a greenfield expansion, they'll have to buy land, okay, for that additional capacity, for buying those new plants, for for setting up new plants, for setting up new hospitals. So that money, so you have to capture the amount required not only for that new land, but also setting up a building or setting up new hospitals in that area. तो मनी का कॉस्ट में आप दोनों चीजें इंक्लूड करोगे, लैंड का कॉस्ट, मतलब यहाँ पे लैंड का कॉस्ट प्लस ऑल्सो द कंस्ट्रक्शन कॉस्ट. Okay. The fourth thing that you need to capture is what is the what is the ramp up time. See, any construction that happens, okay, it takes time, okay, for that building or that plant or that hospital to become to become operational and start giving you revenue. Okay, so hospitals usually have a gestation period of 3 to 4 years, which is what they say in the ConCalls. तो ConCall से मुझे पता लगा कि 3-4 साल लग जाते हैं for a hospital to become operational. Okay, so you have to capture that. Let's say if they are starting construction sometime next year, so you capture the start time of the construction, and also in your model, okay, you'll have to factor in the fact that that particular construction will start giving you benefits only 3 years from the time construction starts. तो आपको ramp up time आपको capture करना पड़ेगा. All right. Okay. So these are the 4 main things that you need to document, and let me pull up the framework. All right. So I just flashing the table which I usually construct for any. This is for a hospital, of course, but even for a manufacturing plant, for a consumer goods services, any company which is in expansion mode, okay, you have to construct this table which has these 4 elements where you document the current capacity, the planned capacity, the cost of the land if it's a greenfield expansion, the construction cost, and the time it will take for the when will they start the construction, and the time it will take for the construction to be completed. So the ramp up time. All right. Okay. So here I've already because for Bangalore and Kolkata we know the existing capacity, which is the number of beds in this case, and the area occupied by the capacity. Okay? And what we know is that in Bangalore, they are planning to construct an area, in Bangalore and Kolkata, they are planning to construct an area of 3 lakh square feet each. Okay? All right. So if 600 square feet is the area occupied by one bed, like we calculated, like we estimated, so the number of beds in Bangalore that they may construct is 500. Okay? And same number of beds they may construct in Kolkata. All right. Cost of land they've already provided us. ये दिया है उन्होंने कॉन कॉल्स में, मैंने आपको दिखाया नहीं, लेकिन ये they provided this to us. Okay, so now you can calculate the land cost per square feet as well. So what you going to do is divide 500 okay, by the square feet. Okay, so you see in Bangalore the cost is under 17,000 square feet, 70,000 rupees per square feet. In Kolkata it's around 6,000 rupees per square feet. Yeah, and of course as a good equity analyst you should compare the land cost land cost per square feet with the actual market rates. Okay, don't always take their word for it. You should do your diligence and compare key if this cost that you have calculated is higher than the current market rates. If it is higher than the current market rates, then you should write to the management and ask कि इतने महंगे में क्यों ले रहे हो land? What's happening? Okay. Any which ways, so that's on the land cost, and of course I said there are 2 kind of costs. One is the land cost and the other is construction cost. So they've also stated they typically take around 1.5 crore per bed. Okay, तो वो आप यूज कर लो. Okay, and they've also stated कि FY25 Q3 is when they start the construction in both these 2 areas, and the ramp up time is 3 years. Okay, so around FY28 end में, okay, they'll have this capacity ready. Okay, so in your model, okay, when you build the valuation model, okay, the revenue from these two capacity expansions in these 2 areas, okay, should start kicking in, should start giving you some benefits, by from FY28. Okay, because it will take around 3 years for these capacities to come up to for these capacities to become operational. Okay, and what they've spoken about is that they plan to construct beds over 8 to 10 lakh square feet of space. Okay, here what I have is just 6 lakh square feet. So of course they plan to construct beds over an additional 2 to 4 lakh square feet of space. Okay, so you have to have dedicated line items for that incremental additional area as well. कि किस city में construct करने वाले हैं, and then of course you can back calculate the number of beds. Okay, and basically do the same thing that we have done for Bangalore and Kolkata. All right. Okay, so this way, so you should not only do it for of course it's a hospital, so we are doing it for a hospital, but had been a manufacturing firm, so you have to construct a similar table. Keep in mind that these are the 4 things that you are essentially looking for when you go to the ConCalls. Okay, all right. So hopefully this was helpful. I just want to focus on cost. We spoke about growth. Now let's focus on the cost of the margin at which they operate. Okay. See, whenever a company does any kind of expansion, Ravi, so it's margin dilutive, at least for the short term. So we got to understand that, and that's why. So they are also expanding into Cayman Islands. Okay. So what they are saying is that it will be initially margin dilutive. That's what they're saying. All right. And the same thing for India operations as well. Okay. I'll just move on in the essence of time. So I said why this is important, Ravi, because of course when we model this business out in the future, we got to take this in consideration. The margin, of course, will drop when they are in the expansive mode. Okay. All right. Yeah. Now let's talk about yeah. Yeah. So again, here they're talking about, see, this is very important. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to drain you through this. They're talking about the margin that they're making in Gurgaon and in Bombay. The reason why it is important is because I'll expect that we model, okay, segment specific revenue drivers. When I say segment specific revenue drivers, I meant geography specific revenue. Okay. We have to model for Bombay separately, for Kolkata separately, for Bangalore separately, for Delhi region separately. Because all of these hospitals, they operate at a very different margin profile. Okay. We can't assume that, you know what, as a whole, Narayana operates at 24% margin. Okay. So let's just model one revenue for them, and let's just use that margin. We can't do that. We have to take into account that they are present in different geographies, and every geography has a different margin profile. Okay. So they give the margin for different geographies. Okay. You see, Gurgaon is mildly positive this quarter, so they are just breaking even in Gurgaon. So for Gurgaon, of course, you cannot assume a 20% margin, right? Please keep that in mind. Okay. Whatever margin they operate in Gurgaon will only come in the future. This has serious implications on our model. Okay. All right. Then just let's move on. What they are saying is all hospitals across all geographies are EBITDA positive except Bombay. That's what they talk about. So Bombay, the hospital in Bombay has not broken even, right? Again, just reiterating my point. When we model revenues for Bombay region, we have to keep that in mind that it's not EBITDA positive right now. Okay. All right. So that's why it's modeling this kind of business becomes all the more messy. This has a lot of layers in it. Modeling this business requires a lot of reading in between the lines, and requires a lot of hard work, right? So okay. Okay. Last point on cost. Here they are talking about Caymans, right? Cayman Island, there is no tax. Yeah? And that's what they talk about. And also they talk about essentially the reason why they, this is something which I think I did not bring up in this call, but the reason why they are, of course, very positive, they have such a good EBITDA at an overall level is not only because they are able to keep their costs under control, but also because they're hugely profitable in Cayman. So overall, they have a very healthy margin profile. Again, this is important because for Cayman as well, we have to model Cayman separately. Okay, so Cayman has a different margin profile than India, and within India, of course, there is a lot of variability as well. Okay, all right. So I'll just leave you with that. There are other things which I wanted to discuss regarding working capital, which was the last point. They're talking about some working capital, okay, which of course we need to bake in as well, because there has been, if you recall, when we are discussing financial ratios, there was some movement in account receivable days and payable days. So they explain that here. When I came across it, I labeled it capital, which is working capital, because again, this has contingency in my model. Go through this and then try to understand what they're talking about across all the different aspects of the business, be it growth, be it margin, be it working capital, be it industry, be it mode. Okay. So this is something that we need to do on our own. All right. All right.
Thank you, Gautam. This was, I think, one of the most important sessions, because this is kind of fundamental to any numbers. It's the narrative that goes behind the numbers.
Hope the 3 videos were helpful. So hopefully now you know what information to look for when you are going through ConCalls. Okay. So see, analyzing ConCalls is instrumental. It will help you with the research of your company. Okay? It will also help you with inputs to the valuation model. And as I've been saying, please do not jump to valuation without first getting a good understanding of the business. Okay? All right. And you cannot get a good understanding without going through the ConCalls. All right. Okay? And of course, analyzing ConCalls will also help you form your investment thesis as well. Okay. All right. So hope this was helpful. And yeah, write to me if you have any questions. All right. Thank you. Well, hope you're finding my content helpful. Please write to me if you have any questions. Also, write to me if you want to join my equity research and valuation cohort program. Because in this program, I have analyzed in detail, I've analyzed and valued three companies from different industries. Okay? So, this is a practical and hands on program. I've strived to keep theory to a bare minimum and covered concepts through live exercises. So, if you're serious about learning equity research and valuation, then you would certainly find this program very helpful. All right. So, please write to me. Thank you.